All right, thanks for everyone who took time out of their busy schedule today. We're going to try to get started because we got a lot of material to pack into a small time frame. My name is William, and I've got my compadre in crime here, Daniel, and we're really excited to introduce you to Amplify, kind of talk you through some of the key capabilities that the product can provide. We want to make sure we save some time for questions, so we'll pause at several opportunities throughout the program to ask for your questions. And at that point in time, you can either type them into chat, or you can unmute yourself and ask your question. So without much more housekeeping, let me turn it over to Daniel. Daniel, why don't you introduce us to Amplify?
All right, perfect. Well, welcome everyone, and we'll go ahead and get started. I got a couple quick slides here just to introduce you to things, and from there we will go ahead and jump into that live demo. So, the year is 2021, right? You tell your car its destination and it drives itself. You talk to your house and expect a response. These are the type of interactions that are setting expectations for customer experiences. Meanwhile, we have more partners and more channels driving more integration patterns. I'm sure this is not news to anyone. Digital paradigms are constantly shifting, and you have to embrace them to stay relevant, continuously evolving your value. And even when you keep your finger on the pulse of the industry, though, the unexpected can happen. And these can bring new requirements and new ways to support them to bear that we weren't planning on. You end up in a situation where you have to leverage your existing IT systems to continue to see a return on investment, often while having budget slashed due to decreased profits or desires to just kind of consolidate and rationalize things down. And basically, you run into a situation where you're trying to allow all your lines of business to be as autonomous as possible, to be able to continue to do things in the way that they see most effective. And with that in mind, one of the things we do see is that a lot of different enterprises have multiple API gateways or management solutions in this line. At the same time, as we continue to make our work smaller so we can be more responsive, moving towards more microservices, multi-cloud adoption, service meshes, things of that nature, we're seeing more and more environments, more and more kind of decomposed architectures. And we're being asked to support all of this, despite the constant changes to the digital paradigms and environments. And it leads to a situation where you have to say, how is it all manageable? A lot of vendors take the perspective of, well, we can do it all, so you're just going to migrate everything to our stack. And that sounds great in theory. That is something, of course, we as Axway would love to say as well. But at the end of the day, the reality is that an actual, realistic solution? What is the cost just to migrate everything over, to change all your processes, to define those for your lines of business and tell everyone they have to do things the exact same way? It's not very realistic a lot of times. So you looking at all this and you're saying, how can I overcome these operational challenges? And Axway, with our new Amplify stack, is really focused on trying to solve these challenges with you in a way that is open and agnostic, allows you to continue to allow your lines of business to be autonomous. We provide the capability to be able to centrally view and discover all your assets, to automatically check them into a single repository where you can manage and govern them. Across all these different environments as they grow, to be able to grow with you, to be able to see all your traffic in a single location and really understand how your different services are working together, and to ultimately centralize on a single normalized customer experience across all your different technology stacks without actually having to migrate anything. My name is Daniel Willie, and I welcome our customers, partners, and prospects to join us on this journey as we explore Amplify Central on the Unified Catalog and our marketplace concept to answer these questions and more. So what we're going to be looking at today is Axway's Amplify solution. Basically, we have the ability to aggregate all your different assets together into a single management plane, all these distributed data planes. We can do this either as a proxy or not. One big thing that we have the ability to do is to say you can just check your assets and build a catalog of all of them to enable your developers to discover everything you have, to decide if they want to reuse it, to see what's in process and being developed, all in a single location. We can do this without refactoring. We have the ability to check things in via APIs, CLIs, or the GUI. We also have agents and SDKs to build your own. We really take an open and agnostic stance here where we don't have to proxy it, we don't have to control it, but we enable the ability to bring all your assets together into a single location. You can see on the right-hand side there some of our third-party gateways that we support out of the box. You can see kind of across the board, we support microservice meshes, we support MFT and B2B gateways. We really have the idea and the concept with this solution to bring everything together, all your assets into a single location, whether we're actually controlling them or not. What we're enabling here is really the ability to have a perspective, to allow your different lines of business to remain autonomous, to be able to use the technology they want without having to centralize everything and refactor and basically migrate it to a single platform. But at the same time, be able to get all the values, having all your integrations, all your flows, all your assets in a single place, be able to see the transactions, see what's there, to be able to make those decisions and ultimately raise it up to business logic. How are all these different assets supporting your KPIs? Who's subscribing to what? Where do I want to invest? This is basically kind of the core of what Amplify is and what we hope to show you today. So I mentioned, we really have the ability to check in any asset from any environment. I'll show you some of the agents today. I'll show you some of the different asset types that we have checked into my sample catalog. But ultimately, I want to show you how we can build a catalog or a marketplace, depending on what the nomenclature is. Maybe you refer to it internally as a catalog, and as you expose external services, experience APIs, whatever you want to call them, to your external partners, developers, direct consumers, we have the ability to bring all the assets in together and allow you to do that. Well, again, without proxying anything and without refactoring anything. We want to show you how we can streamline your consumer, your developer experience, how we can provide a normalized and unified front end, regardless of the back end. For example, on the developer experience side, what if there's a single way to subscribe to all these APIs, regardless of if some of them were sitting on an AWS gateway, others on an Azure API management gateway, another on a Broadcom or Apigee, and of course, a few different lines of business on the Axway API management gateway as well, since it is the best of all of them, correct? How we can automate discovery, how we can have all your different assets checked in without changing your current processes, how we can integrate in seamlessly with current CI/CD processes, and then ultimately how having all these assets together can bring benefits to you, understanding the assets, how they impact your business, and so on and so forth. So unless there's any questions, I will go ahead and hop into the demo by showing you our platform. Let's see, William, I'm not monitoring the chat, so if there are any questions,
I'll feed them to you. We're still seeing the slideshow.
Yep, absolutely. So I'm pulling up our catalog on my other screen here.
There we go.
All right. So if this is your first look at our unified catalog and the Amplify platform, welcome. For anyone that's seen it before and is returning, hopefully you see some new stuff, some interesting things here today. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to unmute yourself and ask. Feel free to throw them in the chat. Depending on how deep they are, we might table them till a little bit later to make sure we get through everything. But here we go. So kind of taking a look at this right when you log in, what you see here is a catalog of many different types of assets. Just kind of looking over here right from the bat, you see we have API assets, but we also have things like our MFT flows. We can bring in custom assets. These could be things like EDI templates if you're one of our B2BI customers. Of course, the MFT flows can be for Flow Manager if you're one of our MFT customers. If you're one of our content collaboration customers, you can check custom assets in here, zip files, things of that nature. And of course, APIs. So if we take a look kind of right off the bat, we have the ability to see and filter what we have in this catalog here. So as you can see, we have many different types of APIs. We have some WSDLs, things of that nature in here. And what this catalog is going to do is it's going to bring you a single unified experience for how you interact with these, regardless of where they are in the back end. which I'll show you here in a second when I get into the topology piece here. Just walking through this initial screen, you see you have the ability to filter on these different categories and types over here. As far as categories go, this is the foundation to do things such as API products, where you're bundling different pieces together. To be able to filter on these and determine if you have different teams, groups, organizations, lines of business, however you'd like to define it, that you want to have access to different APIs. To be able to search and filter and set up different automation chains based on these different tags and such. And I'll show you more of that as we go along. But to take a look at things initially, let's go ahead and pick a OpenAPI version 3 API. We'll also go ahead and pick a GraphQL API. And let's go ahead and grab an async API as well. How about this one here? The stock market sounds good, and maybe a driver app. So kind of right off the bat, what I want to show you, just looking through all this, is you have some very easy kind of ideas or concepts here to be able to see a little bit about your APIs. Obviously, it's very easy to search and filter through all these. And as I'll show you here in a second, these are being pulled in from many different environments. I think I have about 20 different environments checked in here. But we can see that we have the ability to do different teams, different organizations, and do different controls based on that. We can do that. You can have members of many different teams, many different organizations. You have different roles, different rights, responsibilities. So all that's baked in as well. You can see the number of subscriptions. You have vanity metrics such as the number of views. You can see some of the traffic and such here. But let's go ahead and drill down into this a little bit more. So as we bring all these assets in, you have the ability to do categories, taggings, all these different pieces to be able to search, filter, and secure these things. And we have a common interface, despite the fact that we have so many different environments, types of APIs and such. If we kind of go through these different ones I opened, everything's going to have the same look and feel, including the subscription process. So I mentioned we don't have to proxy it. And similarly, when we're handling subscriptions, we can either do that locally or we can go ahead and pass that off to whatever system you would like behind the scenes. And with that in mind, we can basically go ahead and create a common experience for your developers, where if you have 3 or 4 different API gateways, if you have different ways of controlling things, they don't have to become experts in each one of those flows, in each one of those subscription models. We can go ahead and expose that in a similar function here. So kind of walking through these, the first thing I'll show you is if we look at an OpenAPI version 3 spec, it's going to look just like your kind of standard request response APIs. You'll have your methods. If we're proxying it, you can go through here and test it, things of that nature. And if you were to subscribe to the flow, pretty simple. We're going to go ahead and select a team, go ahead and select one of our apps, and we could give it a subscription name and go ahead and request access. That request access could kick off an automated flow. It could defer to something like Teams for an approval process or ServiceNow, whatever the case may be, whatever you want. And the reason I'm showing you this is from here, we'll hop to a slightly different API. If you have seen or played around with GraphQL, you know that that process would be a little bit different. So if we hop in here, you're not going to see the methods. You're going to see the ability to test different GraphQL queries. If we were to go through the subscription process here, again, it's going to look very much the same as the first one. So you can see here kind of right off the bat, just the different context for the methods, which again would change for an async API, where we're not dealing with the kind of resource consumption and methods like in an OAS API. Instead, we're going to see different channels, different topics that we can subscribe to. And if we're getting snapshots, patches, kind of full deltas as they go through, things of that nature. And again, you know, if we were to hop in here and subscribe, we'll see the process actually changes a little bit here. Instead of just creating an application and subscribing to it, in this case, we're going to be giving it a webhook URL for an async API. And then the last one I'll show you here real quick is we can even take an async API and update that flow or that subscription process to include different things. At the end of the day, though, you know, we can kind of provide that context regardless of the content type. but do so in a way that it's a single unified experience. Because one of the biggest challenges when you're trying to get your developers to reuse your assets to get the best return on investment is, of course, how easy is it to use? Is it worth trying to integrate in with other things? Or do I just want to rebuild it myself? The first step is to be able to build this asset catalog, to be able to expose these and have it be searchable based on different tags, have all your assets in a single location. And the next thing is, can I subscribe to them and use them easily? This is kind of the core of our catalog as we build that out and the capability and value there. The next thing I'm going to hop into will be showing you how we get all these assets in here, where they're all derived from. I talked about the agents a little bit and bringing them in from different gateways and such. Before I do that, I see there's been some chat. Are there
Yeah.
any questions we want to
Yeah,
tackle?
I can read them to you, Daniel. One is, can you have multiple teams in one catalog of services?
Yep, absolutely. So if I were to look here, for example, I can see that this asset is only shared with specific teams. That basically, if it inherently to
You
be able
kind
to
of
share with. Go
you
ahead.
kind of answered that one through while you were demoing. The next two though were
Gotcha.
outstanding. So the schema registry, like, can you register schema, use that when you're creating a new API? And then back to the team question, guess we should have done this one first. Can you have collaboration rights on an API, even though you're not the team that owns it?
Absolutely. So yes, yes, yes. As you can see here, for example, we have many different teams. It looks like I don't quite have enough access here to show you the different users on this specific team, which just goes to show, yes, we can have different collaboration rights. But if I did, and if I think about it at the end, I'll hop back to one that I own. We have many different roles built in with that level of granularity that you're looking for to decide who can access what, the different rights and different capabilities to manage these different pieces. As far as the schema registry goes, when we're registering these APIs, just kind of hopping back over to this deck here, we have multiple ways to do it. We basically built an API first. From there, we built a CLI and a GUI. So you can use any of those different options. And of course, we have different agents and such to check that in as well. Does that answer your question, or was there anything more I can kind of answer as far as the schema registry bit?
No, I mean, that works for now.
Gotcha. And then once we check those assets in, obviously you can modify that process, but at the same time, we try to keep that same kind of normalized user experience on top of it. Hopefully, actually, this next part will help to expound upon that a little bit. So I've shown you the catalog, I've shown you the filtering, I've shown you a number of the different types and kind of experiences. The next thing I want to show you is the different environments we're pulling these in from. So I mentioned one of the kind of key differentiating factors here is we really focus on being open and agnostic, not requiring you to check the different assets into us as an actual proxy, but also to be able to quickly and easily pull the different pieces in. So you may remember earlier, I showed you we had the different agents, a couple of different snapshots of them here and here. But from there, I'll go ahead and I'll show you some of these environments that we have checked in. So just kind of taking a look at this, you can see that we have different service meshes, we have different event brokers, we have multiple API gateways, we have some Azure, Apigee, so on and so forth. The assets also don't have to be live. They don't actually have to be backends that are serviceable. The same way we can check things in as a proxy, we can also bring things in from GitHub, Swagger Hub, things of that nature. One of the conversations I commonly have with customers when they're talking about building the catalog, a lot of times they say, we want our shared assets in the catalog. And I said, okay, what about your other assets? And they say, well, if they're not shared, we don't want to govern them in a single location and bring them into the catalog. And a question that of course follows is, well, what if people are looking for something new? What if it's not a shared asset today? How do they find it? What about new assets that are getting created? Do your developers have a way to see everything that's getting checked in, to be able to see all those different services that are being built and actually comment on it at design time instead of after it's built? Maybe there's a single feature where if it got added, you could save yourself 10, 20 grand on building an API within a different department or line of business. Our goal here is really to be able to check any and all assets in and make that as simple as possible, both from the standpoint of acceleration, time to market, being able to find those assets, reuse them, and get there quicker. Obviously, lowering total cost of ownership and return on investment from things you've already built. But even to go a step further and talk about risk and compliance. Being able to see all your APIs in a single location for auditing purposes. Do you know what APIs you're using? Is there a way to see where you may have license ramifications from using third-party APIs? Or is there a single place where you can go and see all the third parties who are processing your customers' data, the different APIs your developers are calling? Both from the standpoint of if there's a breach or something like that, being able to identify those. But also just from the standpoint of auditability. I know most of my customers, for example, track all the open source or third-party software in their environment. Why not do that with APIs as well? It's just kind of a common extension there. But let's go ahead and hop into one of these and take a look. So in case you weren't aware, Axway's been doing a bunch with open banking of late. So we have an open banking environment here. And if we take a look in here, we can see that we have a number of different assets that have been checked in. All these have been automatically brought in. So we have a discovery agent, and that is basically constantly monitoring the environment and pulling these things in as they appear. And we have a traceability agent. And that traceability agent is going to be bringing the traffic in so that we can aggregate all that together. I'll show you that as soon as we're done with this part. We'll hop into the observer, take a look at some of the visibility, things like that. If we take a look at these different assets, for example, we can see all the different tags that have been brought in. We can see multiple revisions have been brought in over time. All that's been checked in automatically. We can look at these assets, see all the tags, attributes, things of that nature about them that's been checked in. And more importantly, perhaps, we can see this dependency analysis graph. So when you're bringing these services in, you could have a single endpoint. Now, to your earlier question about different teams and roles and such, we can actually expose an API as multiple catalog items for different team members. Maybe we do some proxying on them and allow different token types. Maybe we expose them differently to different groups to throttle them differently, something along those lines. But we have the ability to take those endpoints and expose them as kind of multiple catalog items if we so see fit. And the other thing that we can do here is then see the different subscriptions that are tied to those catalog items. Taking a look at this, this is where it really starts to go beyond just the operational as well and start to get into some of the business value of some of these things that we're showing you. Not just having that catalog and reusing it, but to start to be able to see things such as, do I have active subscriptions to these APIs? And potentially more interesting, I think the ones are canceled, for example. That's often a metric that's overlooked. It's one that we track by having all your assets in a single location. For example, it's good to know if people are signing up for your APIs and then canceling their subscriptions. As I go down through here a little bit into the API observer and the different visibility pieces, I'll show you how you can start to really track that. But the point here is I want to show you that we have the ability to check in many different environments. We have many different agents. So building this asset catalog out is really quite simple with the Axway solution here. And it is about as open and agnostic as I think you can possibly get. So I see we're down to about our last 5 minutes. So I'm going to kind of blow through a couple of these things unless there's any more questions, but I don't see any in chat. So we'll just keep moving. The next thing I want to show you is not only can we bring all those assets into a single location, but we also have the ability to visualize all your traffic from all your different locations, all these different environments that we have. So, if you're trying to troubleshoot what went wrong with something, a lot of times it can be a challenge, especially if you have multiple lines of business, different teams that are building these different services and maintaining them. If something goes wrong at the top level, what does it take to actually kind of walk that trail backwards and figure out where something went wrong? For example, I have this Dave Info API here, and if I take a look, say one of your external partners or direct consumers tried to call an API and got a 429 back, too many requests. Maybe that is an API that's made up of multiple services, a couple levels deep, and you're saying, well, how do I do that? Today, do you have to go and take a look at that first API and then figure out what's happening behind the scenes and then go look at the different environments and try to track all that down? Well, with the Axway solution, we have the ability to aggregate all of your traceability. So not just the discovery to check the assets in, but all the traceability into a single location as well. So not only can we see all the traffic from all these different environments in a single place, but we can actually go ahead and troubleshoot and get kind of some immediate insights from an operational perspective. For example, in this case, we kind of follow these services down and we see that it's made up of 2 different microservices. One of them is working, and this other one down here is what's given us the 429. So even just from an operational perspective, to be able to identify that lowest level failure and be able to jump right into that to see what's going on can make life easy. Not only can we visualize all the API traffic, again, with a full list of different filters and such in here, we can look at it from different views, which APIs are getting used, when, how many transactions, how many errors, things of that nature, which applications that contain those APIs are getting called, how frequently, again, success, errors, times, durations, things of that nature. And all this is pretty much raw traffic there. But we also have the ability to kind of take it a step beyond just that operational traffic and really start to tie that back into your business outcomes, to be able to look at all these environments, all these different assets, and how are they affecting things in a more holistic way. So taking a look at this, for example, you can see that we have many transactions, assets, catalog items, many teams being built. How many of these things happened over a certain amount of time? This is just a real quick, easy view to get started. But let's take a look at something a little bit more interesting. I always like this view right here, this catalog asset subscriptions. So this one, for example, will show you how many subscriptions were created, removed, or updated within the last however long you're looking at it. By aggregating your subscription processes, for example, on all these assets into a single location, you can get some pretty quick and immediate sort of views in here as well. So for example, catalog subscription removed. We see that a lot of things happened on this day. We see that a number of subscriptions were removed. Maybe we can trace that back to an outage and say, okay, well, because of this outage, we lost this many subscriptions. Maybe we need to go ahead and invest in higher reliability. Or for example, maybe a ton of subscriptions were created in a day. Was that a result of a marketing campaign? So you can start to see how just by tracking these different pieces and aggregating them together, it can start to really bring some value from a business standpoint, kind of raising it up a level, having the operational analytics and insights go ahead and support those other use cases. Beyond that, we have the ability to visualize things also from an investment standpoint. Maybe if you're managing things as a product, maybe if you're looking at your API development processes across different environments, different lines of businesses, different groups. I want to see my most performant APIs, my least performant APIs. I want to see the different pieces on this, for example, maximum runtimes. Maybe I'm looking at this this group here that's using this Apogee agent and I see things are running slow. I'm looking up here at this open banking group and I see that things are running rather quickly. Maybe there's different things that these teams can learn from each other. I want to be able to see my most requested APIs, least requested APIs. Which ones should I invest in? Which ones are my customers actually using? We can keep going from there. The different health and usage, the speeds and things like that. Let's see, go for a month and get some more interesting bit.
Hey Daniel,
go ahead.
We've had a question come in from Adam. He wanted to know if we can enforce traffic limits.
Yes, so we can certainly do that from within here. And if you are one of our API management customers, you know how far we can extend that out with our API gateway as well. When we're using the gateway, we can basically look at any piece of context from IP range to if you're authenticating into different user groups and LDAPs, things like that. We can look at PKI issue, or we can look at just about any piece of traffic you want and apply any sort of throttling or throughput controls on there. So that's all kind of a piece of the full solution as well. Within the piece I'm showing you right here, this component, we do have capabilities, and then as I mentioned with the gateway, we can pretty much extend that out infinitely to do whatever we need. boy, time flies. We got 1 minute left on the assigned time. There's plenty here that I could go through, keep showing it to you, but if you want to know more, you certainly know how to reach us, and we can set that up. Any questions based on what I've shown you so far in this short amount of time?
You can take yourself off mute now if you'd like to ask a question, or type it in chat if that serves you better. So Daniel, let's say I'm interested. You show me a lot here. How do I take it to the next level? How do I see more? How do I see how it would work for me?
Well, I mean, the first step, of course, would just be to reach out. Let's start a conversation. You can go to the Axway website. You can reach out to your favorite AE, CSE, SE, basically anybody that works with you or your account. We'd be happy to show you more. But you can also go ahead and go to our website, our YouTube page, our community portal, whatever you might like, and learn some more as well.
And we can set you up with a free 30-day trial as well. So you don't play with the
Absolutely.
product.
If you see some applicability, a use case you'd like to explore, let us know. We're happy to work with you on that as well. William, you can answer where the recording's being placed.
Where is the recording placed? And we'll have access to further questions, business, and knowledge. Well, Daniel and I we'll try our best. If you want to send us a request through how you registered for questions and knowledge, we will provide a link after the session. An email will go out that will have a link to the recording, so that you can go back and maybe play it at slower speed.
Yep, and I think we just answered the. Yeah, I think we answered the other part of that as well. Questions, business, knowledge. Just reach out to us. I'm sure if you go to the Axway page, there's a contact button. Reach out to your AE, whoever. You can also go to our community portal. Any of those channels that you have to contact us, reach out, and we're happy to provide whatever information you're looking for.
All right. Well, we want to honor your time. Thank you so much for spending some of it with us today. Hopefully, we've given you some ideas and things to think about to improve how APIs are performing for your business. And we're very interested in talking to you about it further. Have a great rest of your day. Thank you very much. Goodbye.